Hi gang, this is Mr. Griffin. Welcome to our video tutorial on the idea of mind mapping, which is essentially creating a brainstorm to help flesh out ideas that are in your mind. As you know, we have an upcoming expert project on our Civil War unit, and as we did with our previous unit, we're going to be asking you to generate potential topic ideas and eventually narrow them down to one that you're going to have a genuine interest in and that you will have lots of questions about, because a topic you have a lot of questions about is going to lend itself to a project in which you'll gain a depth of knowledge. The app that we're going to use to do this mind mapping is called MindMeister. And right now you're looking at a web-based version of MindMeister. You guys are going to get access to an iPad app of MindMeister. And it's going to look a little bit different, but it's going to be similar enough that you guys are going to be able to transfer what you're seeing here. So I'm going to go in and actually create part of a mind map, and then I'm going to jump out to one I've already created to talk about how you can look at the various ideas and actually narrow one down. But in order to create your mind map, you're just going to go to the top and click on the plus sign by new mind map. And there's a bunch of templates that they offer, but to be honest with you, the templates I found were a little restrictive. So we're just going to go with a blank template. And because this expert project is going to focus on the Civil War, we're just going to go real basic here and um, make the the topic cluster around the statement of the Civil War. And so what we want to do is we want to then think about the Civil War and go, what is of interest to me so far? You know, we've read a lot about the Civil War. We've watched videos on the Civil War. You've heard read-alouds from a historical fiction novel on the Civil War. And I know you've been pondering different topics, and there's probably a lot swimming around up in your brains. So we're going to use the mind map to flesh those things out and start to discover what really am I interested in. You know, there's a lot of ideas buzzing around in here, but what am I truly interested in? So if I'm mapping my brain right now on the Civil War, I'm going to click on that and then I'm going to hit the plus sign and you'll see it's just going to start webbing off. And I think one of the biggest things that I've kind of been tossing around my mind are um, slaves in the Civil War. And I think probably some of the questions I have surrounding this are one, did they fight? And if so, who did they fight for? I guess I'm also curious about how many fought. And in that same vein, how many died? And I guess I'd also be curious about how did they feel about fighting? And I guess lastly, um, I guess a curiosity question I have is, did men and women fight? So this is essentially the process that you're going through. You know, I started thinking about the Civil War because I know my expert project needs to be based on our study of the Civil War. The first thing that jumped in my brain was slaves and their involvement in the war. And then I went to asking myself a bunch of questions that I think I'm interested in. Did they fight? Who did they fight for? How many fought? How many died? How did they feel about fighting? And I have a misspelling here. Um, did men and women fight? Okay, this should suffice for an understanding of how we start to take an idea that's floating around in our brain and try and pin it down and see how really and truly we're interested in based on the questions that we have to ask about it. And I would say in this example, this is a pretty genuine interest. I have a lot of good questions that I want answered. I would assume that if I did pursue this topic, I would generate even more questions because I want to really learn a lot about it. So let's hop out and I'm going to take you into a mind map that I did previously. on the Civil War, which is basically just going to show you how a more complete mind map might look. And you'll see that I have slaves in the Civil War. I also have the Battle of Antietam as another topic that I was interested in, as well as women in the Civil War. And I just want to note that this could go on. I mean, just because I have 3 topics here, this is really for the purpose of this tutorial. You could have 5 topics, you could have 7 topics, you could have 10 topics if those are if you have that many that you think you generally might be interested in. So for the purpose of the demonstration, you're now looking at these 3 topics that I have. And so what does that mean? So I know I'm interested in these things, but how do I start to narrow these topics down? Well, it could be just as simple as, okay, I've thrown all these topics out. And you know what? I really am interested in slaves in the Civil War, and I think I'm going to go with that one. You might also find that you make a decision based on the number of questions that you have. And you might, if this map grew, you might have a topic where you really only have 1 or 2 questions, or the questions that you're asking are pretty basic questions. It's not going to lead you to research a whole lot of different information. So you start weeding those out, and maybe you land on something like the Battle of Antietam because you have a lot of questions about it. It's obvious they're listed there. You feel like they're good questions, and they're going to lead you to a lot of good learnings. And so that's how you would eventually use the mind map as a way to settle on a topic. So just to summarize, the mind map gets the ideas out of your head. Once they're out of your head and you have a visual for them, you can start to weed out topics that either really aren't of interest or you don't have a lot of questions about. And the idea is ultimately you will land on a topic that you genuinely are interested in and will lead to a high quality expert project. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps in terms of giving you a method for generating topic ideas as well as deciding on a final topic. And of course, Miss Kelly and I will be there to support you in class if you have additional questions about how to utilize this. Thanks so much for watching.